Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the independence and the fighting spirit of those of you who have Mars located within the 8th house within your natal birth chart, but also for those of you who have the sign of Aries ruling your 8th house within your birth chart as well. However, before we do get started, definitely make sure that you give this video a like if you like it today. Also make sure to subscribe if you have not already, and to of course click that little bell icon so that you can keep yourself updated with further content from myself. And one more quick thing to mention, and that is that I have a merchandise store. I have 6 signs up there at the moment, so definitely be sure to check out my Teespring in the description box below if you are interested in picking up one of those pieces. Okay, so with all those introductions out of the way, Mars in the 8th house and Aries ruling the 8th house individuals, let's do this. Okay, so if you have Mars in the 8th house or the sign of Aries ruling your 8th house, then what this suggests is that you're someone who rushes into or away from sexual and or intimate relationships. And there is so much boldness and passion and bravery and courage that you bring to the table as well. You can certainly be a daredevil in this respect, and when you get a deep gut reaction towards someone or something, there's no waiting around when it comes to acting upon it. In fact, it could very well be suggested that you find it extremely difficult to control your physical or your sexual or your emotional urges. And if you do get a bad feeling about someone, you can't act like it doesn't exist. And even if you try to control these urges or these hunches, they always somehow manage to make their way to the surface. They somehow manage to come out no matter how much you try to hide them, conceal them, further implying that you can come across as inconsiderate or as insensitive towards other people's feelings. See, it's you who can have this very say it like it is attitude when it comes to anything that triggers you, or when it comes to situations or people that get under your skin. And in a world where we're taught to be courteous and mindful of other people's feelings, I'm sure you can become frustrated at times. You might actually come across as so candid and as so openly honest when bringing up taboo subject matters, or when it comes to your personal experiences from the past, especially experiences from the past that have left you hurt and in pain. Honestly, Mars in the 8th house, Aries ruling the 8th house individuals, you could be that person at the family dinner table who just brings up a really controversial topic. Then next thing you know, everyone around that table is arguing, or they're feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Or you might be that person who says to your friends, yeah, so I really need to get this off my chest, like X, Y, and Z happened between my mom and my dad, or this horrific thing happened to me when I was a child. You're someone who just has this ability to come out with it in a way, and to be frank if you need to, because if you don't, you might then start to implode upon yourself. So what might actually start to happen is all that emotional baggage, it's turned towards you. Therefore, I think it's pretty important for you to have some sort of outlet for not only your anger, but also for your intense energy. So your intense, especially physical energy levels, but then just for your energy levels overall, which, quick side note, you might have a lot of energy to burn. Because again, if you don't have this outlet, you can feel really energetically or physically drained, not to mention you can also drain others too. And what I further mean by this As well, sometimes you can have the tendency of unloading all of your passionate emotions and frustrations onto your loved ones or your family members, especially if you ever feel threatened or if you feel like you're being attacked. And the same thing could be said whenever you feel like you need to prove yourself to others, that you're capable or that you have what it takes to overcome a particular challenge. So for example, right, you could come home from a long day and maybe a few things really got under your skin throughout the day. You might go straight to your partner or to your friend or to your roommate, whoever it is, and you start ranting about this person and that person, and you start expressing your disliking towards something that happened. And you know, that's can be a good thing. You know, you're letting off steam, you're just being honest and frank about these emotions you're feeling. But then maybe the person that you're unloading these emotions onto, maybe they start to do something that takes away from you. Maybe they get distracted, or maybe they're just busy. This might nerve you a little bit because, I mean, now they're not fully engaged. They're not fully in the moment with you. It's as if you want that person to be in that emotional current with you. You're almost unconsciously seeking an emotional reaction from that person, an emotional reaction that matches the same emotional reaction that you're experiencing. But yet the moment that things don't become solely about you, or if it doesn't align with what you are experiencing, you might throw all your toys out of the pram. Now, this is just one example, though still, this is also why I'm saying it's a good idea to have a healthy outlet in your life that can help you navigate the very heavy, intense, busy, powerful emotional reactions that you have to things. It can just be, yeah, your emotional reactions and your frustrations towards things, your anger towards things can be very, very powerful. And I think it's also important for you to pay attention to what you're consuming in this respect as well on a day-to-day basis. Seriously, you're the type of person who if you watch something on the news or YouTube or the television and you get so invested in it, and you can get really easily worked up, especially if that program is controversial, or if it's taboo, or if it has action scenes or sex scenes or violence. You can just become like an emotional sponge when you watch things that are very aggressive. And there may be times whenever you are triggered by people or by situations that then set you off into a world of just annoyance and anger, sometimes just feeling agitated and frustrated. And when you're in this state, it can be kind of difficult to get through to you. Even though you may make it seem like above the surface, you know, it's all good, I can handle this. Yeah, underneath the surface, things are quite the roller coaster. Also, I think it's important for you to practice things that relax you, things that can calm your mind and your body as well. Mars in the 8th house, Aries ruling the 8th house individuals. Though on the other hand, these things might become difficult for you to do, especially if you have more difficult or challenging aspects to Mars in the birth chart. Also keeping in mind the sign that Mars is in there as well. And furthermore, I also think with more challenging aspects to Mars, you find it harder to control your impulses, to control your urges. It's harder to control your actions as well. Maybe for some of you, listening to really loud or fast music can help you relax, surprisingly. Or maybe these things can help motivate you during times whenever you're going through a really low, deep, low emotional dip. Or maybe for some of you, exercise or physical activity can really help you let out your emotions. Exercise can help you feel more in control of yourself. or it can help you feel more at ease. And as someone who has Aries ruling my 8th house, with my moon in Aries as well in the 8th house, I know for myself that executing a task that I'm working on throughout the day, that really helps me feel more centered. It helps me feel more in control. Exercise also, because once I complete an exercise routine, there's something just so satisfying and fulfilling about it. It's like knowing that I've achieved something for myself. So on that note, perhaps reaching your goals or pursuing pushing yourself to achieve your goals, maybe these things are a great way for you to release all of this pent up energy that you have within you. Mars in the 8th house, Aries ruling the 8th house individuals. And the same could also be suggested maybe when it comes to sex as well, and getting into your physical body in that respect. Could be that there's some sexual tensions that you can sometimes feel, and so you, through the act of sex, you can release those sexual tensions. However, we still can't deny here that being direct about things below the surface, this within itself can be seen as an act of courage. It can be seen as an act of bravery, especially given that you don't do it because you want others to pity you. You're not the types of people who want others to feel sorry for you. You don't really want others pandering over you whenever you open up or whenever you express your vulnerabilities. You can have a pretty get on with it, it is what it is attitude. Though on the other hand, I also think you're not fully aware of the intense emotional impacts that certain events have had on you. You may not slow down to assess whether or not you have been emotionally impacted or bruised, so to speak. Don't get me wrong, there's a fierce independence here, where you deal with things most likely on your own, but at the same time, you might act all tough and all macho-like, you know, like, I got this, you don't need to worry about me, whilst all the while you're really hurting on the inside. You're dwelling, you're brooding, you're sort of suffering in silence, which is quite interesting because above the surface there's this forward moving attitude, there's this go-getter attitude. So sure, you might be this candid, straightforward person who is daring enough to address all things personal, all things taboo and controversial, but on the inside, you might not be fully aware of how distressed you really feel. Essentially, there lies within you emotions that you have buried very deep inside of you, that you yourself may be afraid of letting out, or you may be afraid of acting upon. And if you have ever been hurt or injured by somebody else, you typically may stew in the attack without realizing it. You might even project a previous injury onto new people that you meet later on. It could very well be suggested that you've went through some form of physical and or sexual abuse, or maybe growing up you experienced some pretty violent, scary and dangerous episodes. Perhaps your independence and your freedom has been threatened in some way. Or perhaps growing up you were forced to repress your self-assertion, or you were forced to repress your anger. Maybe you've witnessed life and death situations, or maybe your very survival has been threatened, leaving you terrified. Though regardless of what actually happened, there are themes here of battles and fighting your corner. There's themes of protection and retaliation. There's themes of intense inner frustrations and passions and desires. But then on that note, maybe you were encouraged to actually hide or to conceal your passions and your desires. But like I said, regardless of what actually happened, it's these themes that lie deep within you. And there's no escaping them, no matter how tough you act. And I think this is also where tenderness and just slowing down comes into play. So being gentle, being tender with yourself and towards others as well, and being aware of times whenever you're on just this fast mode, you're on this aimless fast mode without even realizing it. Now, there's no denying that you have a very profound fighting spirit. Mars in the 8th house, Aries ruling the 8th house individuals, and it's this fighting spirit that has helped you conquer, it's helped you push and move in spite of danger. But I also think at times that your inner warrior can go to the extremes at times, and it can fight even whenever there's nothing to fight for or against. Likewise, maybe your inner warrior, it fights off other emotions that you could feel, but you don't because you feel so worked up. It's as if you fixate on what's making you angry or what's pissing you off with this very one-track mind, very headstrong. And in the process, you miss out on other things happening around you, and you might also overlook how other people are feeling, resulting in a lack of presence with partners or with friends or with colleagues. Again, maybe these things correspond more so with challenging aspects to Mars or with a certain sign that Mars is in, but I still think practicing mindfulness can help. It can really help you if you have Mars in the 8th house or if you have the sign of Aries ruling the 8th house. Maybe even speaking to a therapist or writing in a journal can help you navigate through things that really bother you or really get to you. And if there are painful events from the past, then maybe speaking with someone you trust about these things can really help. Or speaking with a professional specifically, because by doing so, maybe you can unravel what's actually going on beneath the surface. It can even be suggested that you're an advocate for all things psychological, and you're the first one to ask your friends and your loved ones about their mental health. Then again, you know, maybe it's this diving into this psychological side of things that comes more with time, or comes more with experience and learning, with maturity as well. Though still, you might be a leader, you know, a leader in this respect. You're someone who can open the floor to all things psychological. And like I said earlier, open the floor to things that are taboo and controversial. Same thing could be said when it comes to occult-like subject matters, or when it comes to death-related topics. You sort of jump into these areas, and in the process, you encourage others to open up about them as well. And what comes with such actions is transformation. Transformation both within yourself and within others. So in this respect, it's you, Mars in the 8th house, Aries ruling the 8th house individuals, who leads people into their darkness. You push them to look inside. You confront them with their shadow. You confront them with their fears. Though whether or not others like this is an entirely different story. You might actually receive backlash for your fierce independence into areas that are just much too hard for many to handle. But whatever the reaction, it's you who initiates that transformation. You get it going in motion. But going back to the beginning statement of this video about how you can rush into or away from sexual and or intimate relationships, this is also why I said slowing down is a good shout. It might be beneficial for you to be more cautious as well of your actions, or to use some more discretion when getting involved intimately with another person. See, what might also happen with you sometimes is you don't listen to your intuition, and instead you lead with your genital area, or you go along with something to protect yourself. Essentially, you can jump into situations very fast that then put you into danger. Though to be fair, I think your gut always knows, and eventually it will speak. It will speak very loudly, very aggressively. Sure, you might try to control your insides so you get maybe what you want, or so that you can survive, but sooner or later, these strong urges and desires, they will come out or rise to the surface. And when it comes to your sexual desires and your sex drive, you might release your anger or your frustrations or your aggressions within the bedroom. Maybe you seek to be in control, or you seek to be in charge in the bedroom, or maybe you enjoy a lot of really strong, heavy, physical energy there within the bedroom. There's much passion that you bring into the bedroom, and you might seek to let out a lot of steam. Could be suggested that intimacy itself motivates you, it drives you, or that you actively search for intimate and or sexual connections. And the more profound and the more meaningful, the better. But at the same time, I think it's also important that you have independence within your intimate and close relationships. And if you ever feel like your independence is being threatened, that quickness to rush away, that might kick in. Therefore, being with someone who gets this about you is possibly what you want. Though on the other hand, there may be times whenever you feel like others are picking a battle with you, times whenever you feel like others are trying to take what they want from you to fulfill their own selfish desires, and times whenever all hell breaks loose because someone has rubbed you the wrong way. Whilst these things may be true at times, after all, there's events from your past you've experienced or witnessed that have involved such themes. But other times, like I said earlier, you might fight when there's nothing to fight. Meaning that sometimes you can jump to conclusions and think that others are trying to take away your independence, which may not be the case. Perhaps this is your way of protecting yourself. It's a defense mechanism, and it's your way of fearing what could be with somebody else. Or maybe there's a level of self-destruction here, or quite possibly you unconsciously push people away because having them close actually is really scary for you, or maybe you push them away as a way to test their loyalty towards you. But whatever the case may be, I think there's unconscious themes here surrounding letting people into your inner world. There are fears of letting people close. But just to end this video on a more positive note, it's you, Mars in the 8th house, Aries ruling the 8th house individuals. It's you who steps up to the plate when it comes to your unconscious and your psychological baggage. It's you who is willing and ready to dive in and really get yourself wet. Ultimately, you are a bold and daring psychological leader and pioneer, and you evolve and change so aggressively, so drastically, and sometimes at a rapid speed. And as you drive forward into the unknown, you transform time and time again, bringing with you new parts of your identity to explore. So even if it is that you go through these very intense unconscious themes that I talked about throughout this video, it's still you who has the courage to get right in there and to transform through such experiences. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video on the independence and the fighting spirit of those of you who have Mars located within the 8th house within your birth chart, but also for those of you who have the sign of Aries ruling the 8th house within your birth chart as well. Now, if you happen to have any of these placements, then definitely let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section down below. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then definitely make sure that you click that subscribe button and also give this video a like, remember, and I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!